Hi everybody, this is Jason Eagle, your natural health authority with another Healing Matters podcast, and today we're going to talk about the antiviral diet or antivirus. Virus, this is the thing that we're talking about right now, but virus has always been around in terms of the common cold, it's the flu. There's a lot of different things that are caused by virus, so let's first talk about what is a virus. A virus is a microorganism that is smaller than bacterium. So bacteria are basically, when you look under the microscope and you can see little different types of things, what we would call bugs, okay? So virus is not necessarily the same thing as bacteria because they cannot grow or reproduce apart from a living cell. Bacteria live outside, so bacteria are something that can get and can be living there and can be living dormant. Virus, basically, like, you know, when you cough and you cough onto a surface, it can live for a little while, but eventually it dies because it has to. And here's the other thing: is it still speculative as to is it really alive? Because it's not really a living life form. It is RNA and DNA, or just RNA. I'll explain that a little bit later, okay? So it is smaller than bacterium, smaller than a bacteria that cannot grow or reproduce apart from a living cell. A virus invades living cells and uses their chemical machinery. Keep in mind, this is going to be very important because this is what I'm talking about in terms of changing the chemical machinery of your body. Basically, and then think about a computer virus. It's the same thing. It's a hack. Or even the original, what would be the Greek or Roman term, or the word virus actually came from venom or poison. It was a poison. So you could even say words would be a virus, something that infects, or for instance, an idea, a mind virus. It can't live on its own. It has to get inside you, get inside something, and then use those mechanisms to hack and basically, you know, it's kind of like the cuckoo bird. The cuckoo bird doesn't raise its own young. The cuckoo bird is a bird that will go to other birds' nests, and it will lay its eggs in, say, a robin's nest or a sparrow or something like that. And it's an egg that it looks different, but you know, it does it while the parents are away. So when the parents come back, and it has a certain lack of smell on it, so the parents don't suspect that it's something else. If there's another egg from a different species, they'll kick it out because they can smell and it smells like a foreign thing. The cuckoo bird has basically been created in such a way that what it does is it lays its eggs inside of something else's nest. It then hatches. It uses the parents to raise it. Now here's the other thing of what it does, is it develops faster than and bigger than the other baby birds. And what it does is it has this instinct. You can see pictures of it, and it has where it kicks the other baby birds out of the nest. And so now it's the only one that has its mouth open going cheep, cheep, cheep. And then the mother and the father feed it, and then it grows bigger than even them. And then it eventually flies away and takes off. So it's a parasite. That's what a virus is it hatches, goes inside your cells, uses your mechanisms to then produce itself. It may reproduce with fidelity or with errors, mutations. This ability to mutate is responsible for the ability of some viruses to change slightly in each infected person, making treatment difficult. So it's like the Borg, if you in Star Trek, which is it can adapt, it can change. So a certain virus may be one type of virus, but then once it gets inside another person, it then develops and it turns into its own different types of thing. And so it's very difficult because, so now they're talking about variants, which means it keeps spitting out different copies and mutating copies, especially if it gets into your cells that already has other mutations in it, and it's able to morph and change, okay? Viruses cause many common human infections and are responsible for a number of rare diseases. examples of viral illnesses range from the common cold, okay, which has been caused by one of the rhinoviruses. Viruses may contain either DNA, ribonucleic acid, and then RNA, which is ribonucleic acid, okay? DNA is what our cells are. RNA is basically copies that fit into pieces of DNA. Okay, I'll explain that, okay? Viruses may contain either DNA or RNA as their genetic material. Herpes simplex virus and the hepatitis B virus are DNA viruses, meaning they are directly a DNA that changes your DNA. RNA viruses have an enzyme called reverse transcriptase. Transcriptase is a transcript. Transcript is like you're sitting there. It's like in the court when somebody's taking notes. It's transcribing. Somebody's talking and then it's taking notes. Or it's basically like a copy machine. A copy machine that basically comes up, makes a copy of it, takes a piece of it, and then goes and then starts reproducing that copy. Transcriptase, anything that's A's, is an amino acid. Hint about what we're talking about today, amino acids, okay? So transcriptase, okay, RNA viruses have an enzyme called reverse transcriptase that permits the usual sequence of DNA to RNA to be reversed so that the virus can make a DNA version of itself. Okay, so DNA is essentially the whole book. RNA is a chapter or a page of the book. These things have figured out how to take through the reverse transcriptase, meaning taking a page, getting into the DNA of your cells, and then being able to rip a copy, essentially like in those movies when someone goes in and sticks the file into the computer and steals their files, or we need to get out and we need to get the plans. That's what this thing does, is it's able to reverse transcriptase. Keep in mind, that's an amino acid. Hint, 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 because we can change this through other amino acids, okay? And reverse so that the virus can make a DNA version of itself, meaning making a whole nother new cell like a mutated cell. It's able to make essentially the Walking Dead. Zombie, want brains. So it can take your DNA cells, one of your cells, a skin cell or a lung cell, I'm happy and I'm what I am and I'm here with my neighbors and I'm living in the neighborhood. Hi neighbor. And then suddenly blah, 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 change and then hi neighbor. You know, like in that movie where the Men in Black, where the alien then takes the body, the guy's skin off and then goes inside his skin and is like, oh, hi. Yes, looks like it and can act like it, but it's not it, and it's an invader. And it's also like the movie The Thing, where it can get inside of other cells, change them, becoming another infector, but then go around looking like, I'm just like everybody else. So very, very hard to find. Very hard for your immune system to kill and track down. Okay, RNA viruses include HIV and hepatitis C virus. Researchers have grouped viruses together into several major families based upon their shape. Okay, now when we talk about the spike protein and stuff like that, of this one virus that we're talking about right now, it's because it's its shape and it has a very specific type of shape to the spike protein is how it infects, how it gets into another cell and then creating other little spike proteins that pop out and then they can then start reinfecting other cells. So basically hijacking one of your cells and turning it into a baby factory of its own type of thing, okay? Almost another thing like the movie Aliens, right? What they would do is they would suck to your face, then they would put basically an egg inside your body, and then they would then create and pop out of your body, and then that would then attach to another person's face and pop out, and then thereby replicating itself. The alien is a virus, okay? And in fact, when we talk about geneticists, when geneticists look into DNA and our genes, and it's even proposed that virus is an alien species, that it came from somewhere else because it's foreign. It looks like it's foreign. It has a foreign mechanism to how the bodies work. Bacterias are here and other things, so it's even, like I said, it's even still suspicious in terms of, well, we can't really call it a living thing because it can't live on its own. It has to hack and take over you and live in you to then produce another thing to take over and live in that, to take over another thing, and then some, and then some. Okay? Based upon their shape, behavior, and characteristics. These include the herpes virus, adenoviruses, papilloviruses, including the papilloma, the human papilloma, which is, that would be the one, the HPV. That's the one that can cause, like the herpes, you get your lip, but you can get like genital herpes warts that can then spread. And this one has been shown to be very related to cancers. Why do they give people the HPV virus, the Gardasil? Joke, it's not. It's very bad for you. A lot of problems. Cut to the chase. This is, how do we get around this? We can stop these things from replicate rather than going on something that we inject inside to our body that could have possible side effects. You can change it inside your body naturally and safely just by, again, going back to the basics of this is, how do you change the mechanisms? Okay. All right, now papilloma virus, okay, all these other different viruses, these are the DNA or RNA viruses. On the RNA side, major families include the Papilloma viruses, including the rhinoviruses. Rhino, because that's nose, a rhino has a nose horn. Hint, hint, that means it's the snuffy ones, the ones that you get the cold, the ones that give you the stuffy nose, the ones that give you the red nose, the ones that give you the runny nose. Rhinovirus are upper nasal pharyngeal, the upper respiratory nasal ones. Okay. All right. And then another one, there are dozens of these other retroviruses. There's dozens of smaller virus families within these classifications. Many viruses are host specific, capable of infecting and causing disease in humans or specific animals only. Okay. So it's not just like everything. So that's why they do bring this up, which is, okay, when this thing was possibly created in the lab, right? And now they're talking about what's called gain of function, gain of function, gain of function. If you've watched that in the news, what does gain of function mean? Gain of function means taking something and gaining a function. A function is something that was only supposed to be in, for instance, bats or other different types of animals, and don't cross over to other animals. Some of these things, as we say, they can change, but there's other ones that don't change, and they never go from one body to another. They never go from one animal unless they change. But there's some things that can never be changed. They have to be manipulated and change, and that's what they were talking about, which is gain of function, meaning taking something and basically you'll never see it ever go from this animal to this animal in nature unless we poke it and make it do so. And there's been many things that they've done with this, and in particular for war, and which were supposed to be outlawed back in World War I, because that's what they were using, is they were using chemical warfare and biological warfare. Biological warfare means taking these things and turning, especially viruses, what's called gain of function, of which we funded, and it's proved. Okay, enough said. Okay, so now we get into, as I said, which is, how do we handle this? This is what virus is. Virus is these things that are floating around. Again, if they land on a surface and that surface is long enough, many of them can't last more than just a couple minutes. Many of them maybe can last an hour or hours. Some we talk about days, okay? But light will kill them. Air will kill them. They cannot last, like if it lands on a tree outside that gets exposed to sunshine, it immediately get killed, right? If you're outside at the park and it lands, somebody sneezes and it lands on the park bench that's in the middle of the air and it's sunshine, It's not going to last very long. It can't. Light kills it. Ultraviolet light, which is coming from the sunshine. Yes, bleach and other stuff kill it. But time kills it. They cannot last outside of the body very long. They have to get into a body. Okay. Now we talk about what's called reducing your viral load, because what's called a viral load means how many viruses do we have in our body? We have viruses all the time. Okay, the chickenpox virus, which can also cause shingles, it's in our bodies. The herpes virus, everybody's got herpes virus, whether you got a cold sore or not. These things live in our body, and if your body's immune system is strong, they remain dormant. They don't hatch. They basically just kind of stay there, sleep, and you'll never know that they're there. And the load means your body can keep it down to a small amount. A huge viral load means like you got a ton of babies on your back and it's huge and it's weighing you down. Whereas a low viral load, you got a couple of them and you don't even notice it, meaning your body is so big and so strong and your immune system is so strong just because you have it a little bit. That's where we get into this testing too, of this polymerase chain reaction. Is if you amplify it enough, if you basically do what's called the thresholds, meaning let's copy it again, let's do it again, let's do it again, let's do it again. A super healthy person with a low viral load will show up with anything you want to see. Very suspicious. This is not the best testing. The guy who invented the testing of the polymerase chain reaction, who just, interestingly enough, just died a year before this whole thing happened, was famous for saying, anyone that uses this to do what we're doing should be ashamed of themselves, because it's not what it's used for. It's because if you ramp it up enough, and he pointed out the person who is the big, oh, thank you, Mr. And pointed him out and say he's a criminal, okay, pushing this on people and changing people's ideas and minds. Enough said about that one. So again, forget about all this other stuff. Get healthy. You can reduce your viral load. Okay. Now we get into the amino acids. As I said, going back again, how does a virus get into your body? It has to use an amino acid. So there's a whole bunch of amino acids, and the presence of certain amino acids will amplify it and let it live and encourage it to live. And then there's other ones that will turn it off and not let it live and not let it get in. Okay, lysine and arginine are both essential amino acids. What this means, anything that they say that's essential, an essential amino acid or essential vitamin or essential nutrient means that your body cannot make these things and they must be obtained from food. Okay, some things your body can make, but the things that are what's called essential means you better get it from the outside, and you need it for living and you need it for life, and so it better come in from the outside. There are multiple reasons someone can be considered immunocompromised. Your immune system is compromised, meaning it's not very good. It's weak, which means you're susceptible to a lot of stuff. Viral load refers to the total amount of viruses in your body's immune system that it needs to fight. Infectious dose refers to the number of viral particles required to establish an infection. Okay, now we get into another thing, which is this infectious dose, meaning just because there's a small particle doesn't mean that it's high enough to create and establish an infection. Now that can vary depending upon a person's immunocompromised system in terms of how compromised or uncompromised, right? So the more compromised you are, the lower the viral particle numbers it takes to establish an infection. A great many viruses, including the herpes simplex virus, cytomegalovirus, which is that's the hand, foot, and mouth disease, as well as Epstein-Barr, EBV, that's the mono, these types of things, require arginine, again, that's a amino acid. Anything that ends in INE means it's an amino acid. Okay. Require arginine to replicate and are inhibited by lysine. Okay. Oh, let me go back to where I said the A's. A's is not an amino acid. Anything that's A's is a, let me think about it. Let me think about it. I'll come back to it. But there's ene and A's. A's is, it acts as a catalyst. These are catalyst things. Anything that's, so like lactase, invertase, these things, not amino acids. I just dropped out of my head. I'll come back to it. But all of these are important in terms of being able to build a cell, tear down a cell, get inside of a cell, get outside of a cell. Okay, so you can drastically reduce your viral load by making sure that every meal and every snack you eat contains more lysine than arginine. Okay, there's all different types of different amino acids. Arginine is one of the ones that's very popular in bodybuilding because arginine can build muscle, okay? Foods like peanut butter or sesame seeds are very high in arginine. That's why a lot of people in the bodybuilding world or exercise world use it and think that's a great food and it's a great kind of booster type of thing. However, if they're building muscle and they have lots of virus in their body, they're feeding the virus, okay? Okay, and can increase, so high arginine, low arginine food can increase your viral load by some 10,000 times. Essentially, think of lysine as birth control for many viruses and arginine as a viral fertility drug. That's what I wanted to get across, which is lysine is, again, it's kind of birth control. It can stop them from replicating. And arginine, if you want them to grow, you may like your muscles, but if you are growing virus and if you have already an increased viral load, there are many people that are big bodybuilders and really look super fit that caught some of these upper respiratory viruses and went down like that. Just because you look big and strong doesn't mean you are big and strong inside. And the more muscles you have, the more you may be feeding the viruses. They're living inside you and you're boom, 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 and you become a factory for them. You become the Borg factory. So now let's get into what are these foods. There is a very common, what's called the antiviral diet. It's a high lysine diet. Lysine is an amino acid enzyme. That's what I was thinking. Enzyme. Okay. So the transcriptase. Okay. Sorry, I just jumped. It just popped back in my head. Enzymes are used and amino acids are used. These are enzymes help the chemical reactions to happen that are essential for the amino acids amino acids are what build proteins. So that's the other thing. Think about what the virus is. A virus is a protein. Its tissues are made out of protein. All of your cells are protein. And so it basically builds it's a protein factory. The transcriptase, which is basically a catalyst that's used to kind of break things down and then put them back together again, okay? Whereas the lysine and arginine are something that enables it getting inside and outside of the cell and also to build an actual protein, okay? So, as natural food ingredient, lysine appears to be very beneficial in the treatment of herpes infections and other viral infections. Lysine inhibits viral growth. Research has shown that by upsetting the nutritional balance essential for the virus organism growth, or hack even more so, because it's not growing itself, it grows in you. It uses you to grow. Lysine not only inhibits their ability to grow and flourish, but it enhances their destruction. Lysine is not a cure, but it is suppressive. That's very important by reducing the viral load. The lower your viral load, the healthier and more protected and more strong and more of it, quite frankly, you become the healing thing. So if you get it, your body then turns into, because see, now let's go to the other side. How do you build immunity and you share immunity? Is you catch some of the virus, which your body goes, I'm stronger than you and I figured out what you're doing. And now you produce your immune system, you produce titers, you produce these different types of things called natural immunity, and then you breathe those things out and you spit these things out. And then when a person gets touched by these things or essentially affected or infected by this thing, when they get infected by this, they're getting infected with the code of what to do if you ever see this, including if you are immunocompromised. So immunocompromised people that get spread with a person with healthy immunity, they're essentially getting an immunity, which their body doesn't have to do. Their body has had the code cracker crack the code and then shared that with somebody else going, you don't have to do the math on this thing. I've done it already for you. Boom, here's the antidote. So when it comes into your body, you'll know what to do. I like to say it's like this as well, is like, okay, think about virus as coming into your store and writing a bad check, okay? Passing counterfeit bills. It buys something, it takes something out of your store, and now it's passed on counterfeit bills, meaning it's worthless, and now they stole from you, okay? So in a good store, what this is immunity is, natural immunity, herd immunity is the best. This is what it is you take a picture of that person, and now you put that up on your basically on your counter and say, if this guy ever comes in and this is what he looks like, and this is the name, this is what they look like, don't let him do it. So that protects you. But better yet, herd immunity means you go throughout the whole community and you share it. So anyone that comes into your store that basically gets a picture and says, everywhere you go, you share this with everywhere, in every store that you go in, and I'll show it with the stores that I know, but everywhere you go, you bring it in with you. And so then it gets posted up everywhere like a wanted poster. And then the more that it gets spread, when that thing comes in, it can't steal from anybody else. That's what herd immunity is. And lysine increases your body's ability. Arginine, as I said, remember, lysine is birth control. Arginine is fertility drug. Is like, you know, you want to get pregnant? Here, take this. You'll have quintuplets. You'll have 6 kids. You wanted 1, you'll have 12, right? Blah, blah, blah. That's what it does. So arginine is something that we want to lower, okay? Arginine is another amino acid that has the opposite effect and seems to stimulate the growth and reproduction of viruses. In viral infections, a diet high in lysine foods and low in arginine foods is essential for recovery. Now, we can also, if we're trying to reduce the viral load, I also encourage people to take lysine as a supplement. You can get it anywhere. You can get it at Whole Foods. You can get it at the grocery store where they have the vitamins. Don't worry about the best one. Just get one, right? And lysine, or you'll see it as L-Lysine. Typically, it comes in doses of 500 milligrams per pill, sometimes 1,000 milligrams. Sometimes it'll have echinacea in it and other things. That's fine. What you want to do is you want to do 1,500 milligrams or 3,000. So a single dose would be 1,500 milligrams, which would be 3 of the 500 milligrams, 3 of the pills. And you do them first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. Then you go about your day eating what's called the antiviral diet. Now, I've got, if anyone wants one, I've got one here. I can send it to you. And it has a list here. On the left side of the page is foods to avoid. And that at the very top it says more arginine than lysine. Then in the middle is good foods to encourage, which are high lysine, low arginine. Then we have ones that are what's called fair foods, which are equal amounts. And then we get free foods, which is they're free. You can eat as much as you want because they have neither arginine nor lysine. So let's go over this list. Foods to avoid, the worst ones. The worst foods that have high arginine, low lysine are almonds. Almonds, and peanuts and these other things, but almonds are the worst. And a lot of people, you know, they will do that for like a health food, or give your kids this for peanut butter or almond butter or almonds. Almonds are a ratio of 4:1. They are one of the worst. Brown rice is healthy, but it's not for this. Brown rice has a high ratio of arginine to lysine. Chocolate, I'm sure you love it, but chocolate has a ratio of 2 to 1. Not good. If you're trying to reduce your viral load, do not eat chocolate. Sunflower seeds, infant cereals, whole wheat bread, peanuts and peanut butter. Peanuts and peanut butter are a ratio of 3 to 1. Not good. A lot of the nuts, pecans, oatmeal. I'm sorry, yes, it has cholesterol lowering effect, but if you're trying to lower your viral load, don't eat oatmeal. Don't eat soybeans. Don't eat corn. Don't eat millet. Don't eat onions. Okay? Brussels sprouts. I know some people are really liking this. Some people hate it, but some people are liking it. It has more arginine than lysine. Sesame seeds are also the same thing, or sesame tahini, sesame seed butter, this type of things. That has a ratio of 3 to 1, arginine to lysine. Not good. Split peas, walnuts, wheat germ, and caffeine. So your coffee, if you're trying to reduce your viral load, find something else hot to drink in the morning. It's not good for you. Now, good foods to encourage, some of the ones that are very, very high, brewer's yeast. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean drink your beer, right? But brewer's yeast, you can get brewer's yeast at the health food store, and you can sprinkle on foods. Nutritional yeast is also something that's good, and you can sprinkle on its foods. It has kind of a nice nutty flavor, and you can use that liberally on your foods. Very high in B vitamins, very good, but the most important thing is it's lysine to arginine. More lysine than arginine. Milk products. You get a lot of people that have been turned off on milk. Now, if you are lactose intolerant or something like that, yes, you can go for the lactose free or lactate or something like that. But milk products are the best for lysine to arginine. So if you are okay with milk products, that would be, including milk, cheeses. The hard cheeses are better. Yogurt, these types of things. If you get snotty and stuff like that, then maybe you should avoid it. But if it's, okay, I'm fine with it. Doesn't bother me. And I heard that the milk is bad, and I drink my rice milk, or I drink my oat milk, or I drink my soybean milk. No. Especially for the lysine, because the amino acids that are in it of lysine to arginine, milk is one of the best ones. Okay. Then we get into the meats. The meats are the highest in lysine, lowest in arginine. Meat would be beef and pork. Poultry is chicken and turkey. Spinach. Spinach, as far as one of the vegetables, is one of the best in terms of high lysine, low arginine. Seafood, as sardines, shrimp, and fish, are also really good. Now, be careful with the breading and stuff like that, because it has a lot of, extra calories, as well as some people don't do well on the breading. Okay. Fair foods, which is equal amounts of lysine to arginine, okay, is eggs and most vegetables, including potatoes. So you can have them, but just not as much as you have on the ones that are the high lysine, low arginine. Then the free foods, which is have them to your heart's delight. That is lettuce and citrus fruits, oranges, lemons, limes, grapefruits, these things. You can have them to your heart's content. Now, if you're trying to watch your sugar, then focus more on the lemons and limes than the oranges and grapefruits. But again, the sugar feeding bacteria, which sugar doesn't necessarily feed virus, well, it kind of does, but not as much as the arginine does. So having foods that are high in lysine, and then having some of these free foods with a little bit of sugar in it, albeit, is better than not, especially if you're looking for, well, what do I eat? Okay, lysine tablets or capsules used in treatment, which is a treatment dose is 1,500 milligrams divided dose. Okay, start the viral plan. So if you have sores, sores have disappeared. Yeah, well, they basically say that you wait for the sores to disappear a bit. So again, this has been really well used for if you have herpes. Start it if you have herpes. One of the most popular herpes treatments is lysine and zinc and echinacea and vitamin C. That's what they have in the store as a treatment. Okay, to optimize benefits, L-Lysine should be taken on an empty stomach with water and not protein. So don't take it with milk. Don't take it with just straight water. The individual amino acid which make up protein will compete with lysine and reduce absorption. That's when you take the lysine on an empty stomach, and the best one as soon as you wake up, because you already have an empty stomach. You're not eating while you're sleeping. Okay. And so, in addition, scientists speculate that L-Lysine may be helpful in controlling rhinovirus, which is responsible for the common cold. Okay, so rather than taking your flu shot, rather than doing something like that, bone up on your lysine, take the antiviral diet, do that as a preparation for this cold and flu season, which is coming upon us. This is also very helpful for people that have allergies. Allergies, many times we can say, well, it's the pollen, it's the dust, it's this other stuff in there. Well, again, you don't know, because many of the viruses live inside those organs. They live inside the nasal cavity. They live inside your parotid gland. They live inside your salivary gland. They live inside your adenoids and tonsils. People that get the swollen tonsils with the tonsil stones. Tonsil stones are basically these dead life forms that are basically a breeding ground for this stuff. Now, let's go back to the very beginning. They're the breeding ground. They're breeding. They're using you to breed, right? But they have to use these mechanisms, these machine mechanisms of, as I said, the transcriptase, which is that's not an amino acid. It's an enzyme, okay? And then the amino acids of lysine to arginine. When you raise these lysine and lower the arginine levels, you basically turn off their mechanisms of being able to get into a cell. If they get into your body, they can't get in, they can't impregnate the cell. And if they already are inside the cell, they can't get out of the cell. And then it basically makes them go dormant, and it keeps them from replicating. And when viruses can't replicate, they die away. And eventually you can get to a point of where they're almost untraceable, and you might as well say that you don't have them because they've come down to such a low level. Because if they don't keep reproducing, they have to keep reproducing to stay alive, because they can't stay alive by themselves. They have to be living inside of cells. Now, again, they can live dormant inside of cells. Now, that's the other thing that the lysine versus the arginine does, is it changes this whole DNA RNA replication, and it basically stops them from being able to replicate and grow. And if they do that, as I said before, long enough, eventually they die away and they can't live anymore. Now, sometimes viruses are very famous. Viruses and bacteria and other things are very famous for living inside of joints. And so you can have a person that reduces their viral load. So let's say you get an example of a person that has had viruses and have been sick for years of their life and have gotten overweight and haven't worked out and stuff like that. Let's say they do the antiviral diet. They reduce their viral load. They then start to lose some weight, and then they start to exercise. That can increase so that's a really good time to get back on the high lysine diet, low arginine diet, the antiviral diet, because as we start exercising, you start pumping the joints, and it can then start waking these things up and getting them out of dormancy and getting them to start feeding as well as start replicating. So now, again, if people start working out and they want to start taking their shakes and their stuff like that, which have high arginine, I've known so many people who said, I'm going to get in shape again, and then they get sick. And why did they get sick? And they think, well, somebody got me sick, or I got sick from somebody else out there. No, you got sick from yourself because of these things that were hiding inside your joints that you just pumped out and you stimulated. So if you are saying, I'm going to get healthy again and I'm going to start working out, best thing you can do is feed yourself on the antiviral diet, go on some high lysine, and as you pump these things and get them to reproduce, they will be killed and they will be stopped, and you will actually clean your joints and tendons out of these hiding viruses and other things. But viruses are one of the top things that live inside your joints. Hence, one of the primary causes for osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis is virus and bacteria. A lot of things that cause your joints to melt and become all inflamed is because they're filled of organisms that are living in there, and your immune system attacks them. So what would even be called autoimmune, okay, and reducing your viral load is very important for people that tend towards the autoimmune. What are some of the autoimmune? That would be MS, that would be Parkinson's, that would be, which would be more neurologic, but we've got a whole host of all these other different types of autoimmune diseases, which means we've called autoimmune meaning your immune system just screwed up, but it's not. Your immune system is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It just can't keep up with what's attacking it, and especially it can't keep up with what's hiding back in your joints, jumping back in your joints and hiding away from your immune system. So that's why it's very important to do when you are exercising, especially after not exercising or deciding to turn over a new leaf and get fit. Do your exercise, but also realize you may be stirring some stuff up, and be prepared. The best way to do that is this antiviral diet. Again, Jason Eagle, your natural health authority, strategichealing.us. You can get a hold of me if you want to get a hold of this sheet that has it, or just go and Google it, and you can Google research it, which is the Antiviral Diet, and you'll find a whole bunch of versions of it, but they're all pretty much the same. And then you can even go up and print up there's lists of all these different foods. So I've got a chart here that basically says, looking at all the different foods, you know, they can tell which different minerals and vitamins, but you can also tell what the amino acid profile is of all of the foods. And you'll see at the very top of the list of the lysine to arginine is milk products. Milk products are the best for this. Seeing that making sure that you can digest them and it doesn't hurt you. If it doesn't hurt you, then go to the other ones, okay? So this is Jason Eagle, your natural health authority. Hope this helps. And again, people are looking for protection. I need to protect myself. I'm so scared. Just use this knowledge and help yourself, because this will not only help you through this fear thing that we're going through right now. Keep in mind virus. Computer virus. It's all the same thing. And what gets rid of a mind virus? Confidence and preparation and strength and integrity and assurity and knowing that you're doing something. And this is, you want to talk about know the science. This is science. This is the basic science. We know how these things grow and how these things die. We know how we feed these things, and they have to grow in you. And if you are not a habitable environment, then they can't grow. But if you are a habitable environment and you create the nice, cushy little, penthouse for them, then whoopee, they're gonna, go like crazy inside your body. So we don't have any, and here's the other thing. Nobody's making you sick. Nobody infects you. You catch it. It's out there. It's out there and everywhere. And when we're talking about immunocompromised, that's you. That's your issue. And it's nobody else's fault. It's your fault. And I don't like to say that, but that's true. But that means it's not to blame and it's not to shame, but it's also to prepare, which is, if you go on that long hike and you pass out halfway through, it's because you didn't prepare. It's not because you weren't made right. It's not because they're not fair. It's not because it's too hard. It's because other people do it, but other people that are prepared. So if your body is prepared, then these things cannot grow in you. And if they do grow in you, then watch out, because you then become the spreading factory of the antidote and you share the cure to everyone else. But you have to be strong and your body has to be prepared for it. So this is a great time to get ready for this. And they're scaring the crap out of everybody. Oh, it's going to happen. Get ready. Goody. Let it happen, man. Let it happen in me, because my body is prepared. My body will handle it. And I know what to do. So start preparing right now. Till next time, this is Jason Eagle, your natural health authority. Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks for watching. I invite you to press the like button because you liked what I had to say about your health. And also, press the subscribe button to be able to easily find me and also be part of this. I look forward to helping you reclaim your health naturally.